Let's start the conversation, Dr. Thomas. Let's start this way because I want us to quite establish some facts on the ground. In case people don't know, in case some people still are there doubting whether this is even possible to start with. Is it possible that COVID can affect somebody psychologically?
Oh, absolutely, Sheriff. I don't think it's far-fetched, even just thinking about it logically, but definitely there are studies, there is information, there are numbers that show
Hmm.
that all over the world, with the COVID pandemic, we have also been experiencing a mental health pandemic,
Oh.
which means adjustment, coping, and generally people's psychological health has been affected, um, many times negatively, by everything around this pandemic.
Right.
So it's very possible it is happening. It's happening.
Do you think that we know in this part of the world?
Yes, I think we know, and I think one of the I don't want to say good things about the pandemic because you don't want to call it pandemic good, but there is a lot more awareness about mental health.
Okay.
There are many more conversations happening now about psychological, emotional well-being, um, and then linking it to physical health. We're having many more people, and I'm very grateful for that also. Many
Hmm.
people are educating the public all over the world and in our country. In our
Hmm.
country, there's definitely increased awareness. I'm definitely seeing more and more people coming in now
Right.
for assessments and asking questions and getting treatment. So I
Thank
think we know.
Dr. Thomas, I'm glad that we agree that we know. But I've had this conversation before, and some of the people that called in, especially during this first wave of COVID, in the peak of lockdown, um,
Mm,
they claim to not have known, but they just noticed that there are some
mm,
changes in their attitude, in their behavior at home. They snap easily. Let me not go into it. You are a
mm.
consultant psychiatrist. What are those symptoms and signs that should be watched out for?
Yes. So I think to be able to sort of understand the signs or the symptoms that look, a person is being affected negatively by what's going on around the pandemic, the direct, indirect effect. It's good to understand linking it from look, there's a lot of isolation. We're social beings.
Right.
Even though, yes, we have not experienced the kind of magnitude of lockdowns we're seeing in other parts of the world, we are affected. I think Nigerians were people that we love to be with other people, no matter how bad things are. We enjoy ourselves with the others. We want to be out there. We move around a lot. We hustle. All these restrictions now
Right.
have actually affected us. And
Hmm.
having to wear the mask all the time, you're being careful around people. It is stressful. It is very stressful for people. So you're looking at things like mood definitely has been affected. There's a lot of
Hmm.
anxiety.
Hmm. Hmm.
Anxiety has gone up, either with people who had pre-existing, but we're having more cases. Maybe people didn't even know they had anxiety issues before. So anxiety, depression, sometimes even flare up of other mental illnesses
Hmm.
is happening, both in adults and children.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's start
So,
with let's start with the children part, Doctor Thomas, because I'm particular. Hello, Doctor. Are you with me, Doctor Thomas?
yes, yes, I
Okay.
am.
All right. So let's start with the children part because we're going to break this down into so many aspects so people can relate. We can address concerns even before we start getting them. How are children most likely to be affected?
Yeah, so children are definitely they're very different from adults as we used to be taught in school. Children are not mini adults, they're not small size adults. So
Hmm.
the way children respond, interpret, perceive, react to these kinds of circumstances is a bit different. Children definitely don't many times don't know how to express what they feel.
Hmm.
So the way an adult would manifest anger, irritability, frustration, feeling depressed is not the way a child normally would. Children are more likely to sometimes just be quiet.
Right.
Um, I'm fine. The typical, how are you? I'm fine. So you need to know how to go a bit deeper to understand their feelings. children can start manifesting, for example, in anxiety, when they have a lot of children are having a lot of anxiety now because they're not able to go to school. Some are anxious about the return to school. And all
Oh.
these restrictions, all these wear masks, don't wear masks, touch somebody, don't touch somebody. It's
Hmm.
stressful for children. Children are tactile. They have to play with their colleagues. They have to have contact.
Right.
So anxiety in children, for example, could be showing more as physical symptoms.
Hmm.
In terms of complaining a lot about different things, headache, tummy ache, this ache, my leg, my. It doesn't mean there may not be something physical, but when
Right.
children start having lots of what we call somatic complaints,
Hmm.
parents should be on the lookout. This could be emotional as well, and just generally, you know your children. You notice when they are not doing great
Hmm.
or they're moody or some more aggressive. That's another possibility, you know. Just suddenly becoming more and more aggressive in their play or in the way they're interacting with others.
Hmm.
And
But
of course, some could actually be quite sad.
ah.
Yeah,
But what should the
yeah.
parents do in this situation? What can be done?
Well, in these situations, not every, change in mood, we have ups, we have downs. So it's not like everything means automatically this child is depressed, automatically this
Oh.
child has anxiety. But at least if you have a high index of suspicion and you're a bit more, you're educated,
Yeah.
then you observe. And if it's sort of something that, oh, cheering the child up, family activities, you know, the typical things they like are not helping,
Hmm.
um, then you might need to just seek a professional's opinion. And when I talk about professionals, not everybody out there who says they're a therapist are actually licensed, trained therapists
Hmm.
or mental health professionals. It's good to just check, do your background checks. There's a lot of information out there now. Find out what are this person's qualifications and then are they really qualified to manage my child.
Right.
But in general, yeah, those are some of the things, just to summarize, that parents should be on the lookout for in their kids. Yeah.
Fantastic. If you're just joining us, you're welcome. It's the Morning Crossfire. Dr. Ibironke Thomas, a consultant psychiatrist, is joining us via Skype this morning. So you can watch on Facebook and YouTube, Nigeria Info 99.3. If you notice anything in your child or your children that just aren't them, then you can drop your questions for us on our live stream on Facebook and YouTube. Or just send me a WhatsApp message. The WhatsApp number is 0809 597 5805. That is 0809 597 5805. Dr. Thomas, let's move on now to adults. How do we know that how are adults affected by this situation that we're in right now? Because a lot of people don't even know. How would they know that they've been affected?
Yeah. So I'm trying to summarize it, but it's important to understand, first of all, that we react differently to different situations depending on so many factors: our personality type, our usual habitual learned ways of responding to crises. This situation is a situation of crisis, and it's not just a situation of acute crisis where, you know, we have a situation, we deal with it for a few days, it's intense, and that's the end. Prolonged stress is what we're having, you know. So now another wave has come and we're thinking what's going to happen. Although I think we're a bit more equipped knowledge wise
Okay.
than when it was just the first time.
Hmm.
But then for adults, so that's stress, the features of stress impacting your health, um, physical signs a lot. So you're having all those, you know, continuous headaches. The traffic of Lagos alone is enough to
You
almost tip
you
you
can
over
say
the head.
that again.
Yeah. Headaches, physical symptoms generally. You talk about it from the head down to the feet. You
Yeah.
know, stress can affect your tummy, so you're there, you're having lots of what we call gastritis, so peppery sensations in the stomach, when you've not eaten on time and things like that. But
Hmm.
then coming to the psychological, more mood, mood is being affected. So low mood, low energy, just generally always fatigue. It's not always just physical. It could
Right.
also be mental.
Right.
Loss of interest in previously pleasurable activities, lack of motivation, concentration, attention, and then sometimes real swings that are unusual, where the person actually, sometimes it's not just the downside. So when people think of mood issues, they're thinking of down, down, down. Sometimes people swing to the other side completely. So
Hmm.
they're becoming what we call hypermanic or manic. I've,
Ah.
I've seen that in a few
What
people
does
this
that mean,
period.
Dr.
So
Thomas? What does that mean? Hypermanic, manic.
Switching. So if you're saying mood, you say from 0 to 10,
Yeah.
0 being worst mood and 10 being totally ecstatic, excited, everything is perfect.
Okay.
Some people actually swing to that end, and then they're doing
Oh.
unusual things, exaggerated, extravagant spending, giving things away, just being so, or thinking they're so grandiose, like I am this big person, but they're
Oh.
not, and they just only have this exalted sense of self-esteem that there's a problem here.
Hmm.
Saying not sleeping, not eating maybe for a long time, lots of ideas going through the head
Right.
constantly.
Right.
So features of mental health problem, and it needs to be caught on time.
Hmm.
So sleep, appetite, energy, these are things to look out. If they are consistently not going well,
Okay.
you might need to see a professional as well. Generally not coping, generally feeling I just can't cope, constant overwhelm. These are features that the person is decompensating.
Hmm.
Their own natural reserves for coping are going down,
Hmm.
and we need to buffer them. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Now let's talk about buffering them, Dr. Thomas. And this question is very germane because it's something that Nigerians have at the back of their mind, and that is the accessibility of mental health care, services in Nigeria. So COVID came, crippled the health sector completely, totally. People that were ill at the time couldn't have access to get treatment from the public health facilities. Even private people were being turned back, and now we have the second wave, on our hands. I want to know, Doctor Thomas, how do you think COVID has affected access to mental health care?
Yeah. So just to give a figure, for example, at least about psychiatrists. So latest figures I think are saying is 250. We have about 250 psychiatrists for over 200 million people. So I
250
don't know.
persons.
Yes, that's the 250 as the last I checked. 250
No
psychiatrists.
way.
Maybe they're a bit. The problem is, I mean, the drain. Lots are leaving as well.
Hmm.
So who knows whether we're going down, you know? So the ratio is totally out of sync. It's not possible for psychiatrists alone to see. Definitely, we have other mental professionals, psychologists, and other, but even the numbers are very few.
Right.
So our mental health system definitely, it was picking up. I think a lot had been done, but we were not there yet. At primary care level, for example, it's not fantastic. We have most of our services in urban areas.
Hmm. Hmm.
So uh, really access is a problem. But then a good thing is now we're using a lot of remote. We can do a lot of remote work
Okay.
when we're talking about services and things like that. We're doing assessments on Zoom. At least some things can be done by remote telehealth, and many people are doing that to be able to access and help the population.
Hmm.
The other thing is training. I think if more of the primary care physicians, so your GPs and um, other nurses, other healthcare professionals can at least learn the basics. There are things
Hmm.
that GPs can take care of, as your general family medicine, family
Right.
doctors.
Right.
And so can also do a lot more, I think, in scaling up training, education also. But access is not could be much better. Many people are not having access also because of cost.
Hmm.
Private care very expensive. The other day we were saying, a couple of us, that I don't know whether even some of us therapists will be able to afford therapy if we needed it.
Right.
But there are so many NGOs and other organizations that are helping, subsidizing and creating more access. So people should reach out. So you just reach out at least, and then see what can be done for you. Don't just assume I can't afford it, so I'm not going to even try.
Hmm.
Reach out and we see what we can do for you. Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. Let's go to take some thoughts from our different portals. If you want to ask Dr. Thomas any question, it's time for me to, take the back seat and allow you do your thing because I have, if I should go on, I might not even allow you to ask one question this morning. But let's have you ask Dr. Thomas any question you want to ask concerning how COVID might have affected you if you are suspecting that something is not just the way it used to be. It's time to ask a professional what you can do, what you should do. 0700 993 993 993. That is the studio line. That's 0700 993 993 993. You can also check out, drop your comments on Facebook. That's Nigeria Info 99.3. That's Nigeria Info 99.3 on Facebook. On YouTube, is the same thing, Nigeria Info 99.3. Let's know if you have any issues that you would like Dr. Thomas to help you solve. We have an anonymous caller joining us, and yes, you can be anonymous as well. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, please.
I want to direct this question to Dr. Thomas.
Please go on.
Yeah, please, my daughter has been receiving therapy for depression, ADHD, anxiety disorder. At the time, I felt that the drugs she was being given by the therapist or psychiatrist was helping, but now she seems to be overwhelmed, too overwhelmed. She cannot do anything. She feels she cannot do anything. In fact, she had dropped drastically from her performance in school. She attempts to kill herself, and it's really, really killing me. So please, is it that the drugs are not working? Are there better things? What can be done? What can she do? What can we do to help her? She's overwhelmed. She just keeps feeling, I'm not good at anything. This is a girl that used to be performing very well in school. It's sad. Please, what can we do?
Madam, stay on the line. Dr. Thomas, did you hear the caller?
Yes, it was a bit. I got something about it. Treatment for depression, not doing so well anymore. She's not sure about the medication. Something about suicidal. I don't know what else did I miss.
That's all. That's all.
Basically, about is this a child or an adult we're talking about?
I was gonna ask that question, but I wanted you to ask a question yourself, so I don't sound like you when I say how old is a child. But madam, if you can call back in, it'll be very nice. But would you want to say anything at all?
Well, at least in general, definitely. I mean, on the program, it's not. This is no. I can't do certain kinds of prescriptions or detailed history taking and all that
Yes,
here.
yes.
But one thing I'm definitely, yes, people can be on medication and have relapses. That someone is on medication does not mean they can't go down sometimes, depending on what is triggering that situation. So the medication may need to be optimized. They need a review. They need some follow up. So what I would advise is the doctor or specialist who has been managing this your daughter, please get a review as soon as possible, particularly because of what you commented about, talking about suicide or self-harm, even if it's just an ideation. So get that review. Try and make sure that she's not left alone. Make sure there's adequate supervision, even if discreet. Remove things around her in the environment that could be used if she has an impulse to harm herself. So lock up medications, remove sharp objects from around her. Just do those things, and please reach out now ASAP to the specialist, a psychiatrist, please.
Right.
She might need patient care for a bit just to stabilize, and definitely optimizing her medications. But don't try not to panic or feel like there's nothing that can be done. You need to be in a good place yourself to take care of someone who is not doing okay. So try to also be calm, do these things, and reach out to a professional and do what they advise, please.
All right. Let's speak with Wumi. Wumi is calling us from Ogun State. Wumi, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Woman.
And good morning to the doctor. I just want to seek advice from the doctor. I am about to be 55 years now.
Okay.
And then I'm feeling some pains at my back And there was a time now that I consulted a doctor, and then I was told that it is arthritis, of which I've been treating for long, okay, but the thing refused to go fast. So I just need advice from the doctor.
Thank you for calling.
Okay. I didn't hear that, so maybe you can tell
He
me.
said he's about 55 and he was feeling some pains at his back. It was diagnosed to be arthritis. It's treated it, but the pain refused to go.
Hmm. Now, okay, I'm not a
Exactly. I
doctor
know. I
or
know.
that, but at least what the only thing I can say definitely is that chronic pain, chronic conditions like arthritis and pain that is not properly managed can actually tip you also into the psychological sequelae because
Hmm.
it's not funny to just be in pain that does not go. Back pain, particularly, is really, really bad.
Right.
So he needs effective pain management. He needs to see somebody, see at least see your family doctor. Let them see what options there are. The thing with it is that you may need to be on medication for quite a while, but it's best also please try not to do the medications or just go to pharmacies or some quote chemists and then they just give you real tough painkillers. Some of those things are addictive and you can get hooked even though yes you feel better.
Hmm.
So please see a doctor so that they think of what might work for you and other therapies because not just medication. It might
Right.
also be some devices, it might be exercise, it might be physiotherapy,
Hmm.
posture. There's so many things, sir. So don't give up. Just speak to a specialist, so at least a GP, and try not to self-medicate.
Hmm. Dr. Thomas, let's go on a quick break. When we return, I will come back to my questions. If we have people on the line, we'll take their questions as well. But I need to squeeze in a few questions concerning some of the things that we noticed during the first wave of COVID. There was a surge in rape cases. There was a surge in teenage pregnancy. There was a surge in drug abuse during the first wave. We're entering into the second wave right now. What are the things that we should be prepared for? Dr. Thomas will join us again. I'm Sheriff Quadry. We'll be right back.
It's Christmas season and Adron Lemon Friday is here again. This time, it's bigger and better. Now is your time to
We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Impact of COVID-19 on you as an individual. Dr. Ibirunke Thomas is joining us via Skype this morning to discuss this particular topic. She is a consultant psychiatrist. She joins us via Skype. Please drop your comments for us, and we will take your comments one after the other. On WhatsApp, the WhatsApp number is 0809 597 5805. That is 0809 597 5805. If you're calling, you don't have to mention your name. You can be anonymous. If you'd like to share your story, COVID story with us on how you are thinking or you know that you've been affected mentally, psychologically by COVID-19. You can also share your thought with us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM. On Twitter, that's at Nigeria Info FM. With the hashtag Nigeria Info MCF. Dr. Thomas, thank you for remaining with us on the program today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Now, let's talk about what happened during the first wave of COVID. There were reports, numerous reports of rape cases, teenage pregnancy. In fact, there was a situation in Anambra State where a father impregnated his daughters. Not one, not two. His daughters, he impregnated them. And we had cases of people abusing drugs, a whole lot during COVID. Now, my question is, how do people know that they were being, things are getting out of control? Things are getting their should I call it their freedom to make rational decision is being taken away from them. During the COVID as well, there were so many rape cases during that time. The surge was huge because we spoke with the Lagos State Department of for Domestic Violence and sexual and domestic violence, and they gave us these numbers. It's so huge. How can we nip this in the bud from happening at all? Because COVID largely played a role in what happened during the first lockdown.
Yeah. Yes, what happened is not just, the pandemic, but it's really a feature of what usually happens during periods of intense crisis and disruption of normal patterns of life. Depending on what it is, but if it's war, if it's other situations. And then the peculiarity, you could say, of the pandemic and when we had to have the lockdowns and restriction of movements was that precisely people were now, you could say, stuck at home. People had to be, or wherever it was, they could find shelter and some kind of, roof over their heads. And what that means is that on a good day, even if people were experiencing abuse, whether physical, sexual, otherwise, in those homes or environments, on a good day, you get up, you go out. So for many people, being able to leave and just be out. Some people are out all day, not because they have specific things they are doing all day, but it's also an opportunity to be out of the environment where an abuser is, whether it's spouse, parents, whoever.
Right.
So started having people, of course, now spending lots of time with the abuser, whether it's children or adults, and not having a way out.
Right.
So going to keep this in the bud, or how to know. I think with abuse, generally there are some things that are clearly not okay. The cases where you're talking about abuse of children,
right,
or otherwise, or even beating up. We say, in an environment, yes, you spank the child, is good for discipline, blah blah. But a lot of times is an outlet in quotes for ventilation or frustration. So by the end of they're injured or it's just repeated, people around should step in. Question is whether they are knowledgeable enough, empowered enough.
Right.
Okay, that's
right.
another problem.
Right.
Of, in a good place themselves. It's sad. It's very sad. It is happening. Substance abuse and alcohol addiction and misuse on the rise. Also, same reasons. Frustration. Sometimes it's mental health problems. Sometimes it's pre-existing habits that are now getting more enforced because it's a maladaptive coping mechanism. You take a drink, you take your substance, you feel better, but it's just for a while until the next fix. And then thinking about it, sometimes I was asking somebody yesterday, the amount of money you're spending on the alcohol,
right?
Actually, it's actually not cheap, even down to the local brands. And then you think about it, if all that money was being kept somewhere, you probably would have a bit more resources. So in the end, it's a vicious cycle. You're getting your situation worse. But when it's an addiction thing, it's not that straightforward to say stop. They need help to be able to stop.
Right.
So that's it. Teenagers, also young people, are using a lot of substances right now and people are taking advantage.
Dr. Thomas, it's part of what I wanted to talk to you about concerning students, how you think that students who have been at home for 9 months now could have been affected by COVID. Is it possible? I mean, these guys, they have so many ways to distract themselves, but could they have been affected by COVID psychologically in any way?
Of course, definitely. Being at home for 9 months or more it's totally just not what should happen. It's not normal. The students should be in school, so they're looking at time going, the disruption, and of course it's the whole story, the idle mind, as they say, the workshop of the devil.
Right.
And young people are very adventurous. They are novelty seeking. They experiment. So, and they think they're invincible. I mean, we were like that. They're invincible. It's not going to happen to me. Even the whole COVID thing. You have young people telling you, no, I mean, my friends, we go out, we're still hanging out. COVID is not happening to us. And you have to do a lot more of education, and people around them need to be patient and to keep on saying it. Look, yes, you might not get it because you're young and you're more resilient or whatever, but think about the older people, think about your grandparents at home, think about transmitting it. And the virus is such that we still don't know enough to be able to predict how each person reacts. So even young people can get terrible reactions.
Right.
Anyway, so with young people being out of school, this is not good. I mean, I take this opportunity, I don't know for what it's worth, we have to appeal. I mean, all those involved that have to make decisions on this, government, ASU, the issues are real, but we are preparing a real ticking time bomb for ourselves by having lots of young people sat at home, and not just sat at home, but not being engaged academically, intellectually.
Should we be expecting any because the ASU yesterday called off their strike? Where I was going with that question initially was that should we be expecting any blowback when these students return back to school, or you feel that life will just go back to normal or anything? I mean, being home for 9 months, then they're going back to school in January or February. Should we be expecting anything? What should we be looking out for?
Yeah. So not to be a prophet of doom or anything like that. We need to be very balanced and also optimistic view of things. Maybe not. We might not get much of any blowout of anything significantly, because people are also resilient. We need to give kudos really to everybody. Everybody who has made it this far, we should congratulate ourselves, because just getting to this point with all we've been through in the last months, a whole year-ish, it's a lot. So I don't want to say, oh, there's going to be a lot of problems, blah, blah, but we can't also bury our heads in the sand.
Yeah.
There need to be measures already anticipating. Okay, so knowing there will definitely be some who have gotten into trouble, who have gotten into maladaptive ways of dealing with, problems, have experienced abuse, experienced a lot of things. So coming back is not just business as usual. I think schools and educational institutions need to put in place those services. The services need to be as good as can be. Get people in there, volunteers who are ready to support students and young people. Prepare this ground so that they have a safe space where they can talk to somebody, chat with somebody, set up WhatsApp counseling if you need to. It's not treatment in terms of you're not prescribing or anything, but at least support those who need support, create the avenue for them. And lecturers, people who teachers, even secondary schools need to be prepared, educated and trained. I think they should invest in some training also for their workers, their staff at all levels, to be able to engage these students better as they come back and be ready for certain kinds of reactions you were not seeing before. Hear certain things you were not heard before. And it's not about, oh, wow, terrible, bad child, and it's about, okay, this has happened. What can we do to help, this child, this family? Because like we always say in the profession, the child is a window into the family. What's
Right.
happening with a child, almost always a window into what's happening in a family. So I think that's part of preparation we should have in place and just support them as best we can. Also understanding that stress will manifest. So also the teaching methods, if you're going to do hybrids, if you're going to do online, Zoom is very tiring. The children who are experiencing it now, it's very exhausting for them. So these are things teachers should take on board in designing the teaching methods and assignments and all that. Don't overload them. It's a stressful time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Uh, just to keep that in mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Indeed. I'm glad that we'll be able to deal with that. Let's try and squeeze some calls in right now as we wrap off on this conversation this morning. 0700 993 993 993. That is it. Studio line. Michael Megari on Facebook says, I am. This COVID has affected me very seriously, but I give God the glory that I am alive. Michael Megari. And what Michael has said is part of the questions that I've outlined for you, Doctor, as to how we approach mental issues from the religious point of view, whether it's healthy or not. But let's take this anonymous caller. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning to you.
I want to remain anonymous.
That's fine.
I have a son. He's 21 years old this year. Some few months was ending last year. In fact, he's in the university. We just noticed that he couldn't see the results. To cut the long story short, we just discovered he's involved in all this online betting. Online betting to the extent that he used his school fees
Okay.
to bet. It was just because we didn't see the result that we discovered that, and we was covering up. We talked, the school advised, then came this lockdown.
Okay.
He kept monitoring, he's not drinking, he's quiet all the while. Just a few weeks ago, something just happened. We discovered, let's go through the process. The same thing. This online betting, sporty bet, and the rest of them. My question is, how do we handle such cases? Because under our present circumstances, we cannot remove, if you remove the phone, everything is done online. I mean, it's a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a challenge.
Let's have the doctor respond to your concerns. Thank you so much for calling. Dr. Thomas.
Thanks for sharing that, and I empathize with you. It must be a very difficult place to be as a parent or guardian. What's happening is possibly this gambling, compulsive gambling, gambling disorder. There's a lot of addiction going on now, and this is one of them. Now, 21, he's an adult, so the kind of restrictions you can put, for example, on children in terms of filters, blocking certain sites and all that,
Right.
may be more difficult here. But the truth is, when someone has an addiction and it's causing so much disruption in their functioning, look now, financial, social, educational, family, then those things might need to be put in place, but in the right way. So I think definitely you should seek the services of a professional, psychiatrist or clinical psychologist that can do an assessment. I hope he's willing to get that done. You also need to now restrict the access to the funds, because it's when there's access to the funds, then they can do that. So now that you know, then he shouldn't be having those amounts of funds accessible to him,
Okay.
at least for now. But you need to have that an approach that is also very patient, difficult that it may seem, so that you also don't make him drive him away in quotes. Because what happens is when they feel they're not, people feel they're not understood,
Mm.
or you're a bit too hard on them in their own perspective, young people can actually do more things, go deeper, or run away, move away mentally or physically. So do reach out to a professional, and on your own end, talking, speaking with him, helping him understand, what the consequences, and look at what it's doing to you all. But at the same time, encourage him to seek professional help, and then now try and block those avenues that might make him want to be able to spend the money in this gambling. So that is important. Um, yeah, at least this is what I can say so far on this kind of public show. And you need more in-depth assessments and then treatment. Therapy is behavioral, really. It's behavioral work. It's just to start changing the behaviors, sort of rewiring the brain back, because addiction is a brain thing. The brain gets rewired into certain patterns, and then you have to gradually switch them back with behavioral modification. There have to be some changes, but it has to be taught to do.
Right, right.
There is hope, there is treatment. He can get better. It can, yeah.
Mm. Mm. Let's squeeze in one more call, Dr. Thomas, before we go. Good morning to you. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
My name is Thomas, and I just wanted to say hi to my big sister and tell her that she's doing a good job, and I have been listening.
Oh, your sister is Dr. Thomas.
Yes. Good morning.
Hi, Stella.
For a long time. Yes.
That's
And I
fine.
just wanted to say I hope she's fine and well, because I mean she hears a lot every day, and I mean she does a lot, and sometimes this psychiatrists, they might not even have time for their own worries.
Yeah.
Really, yes. I just wanted to say I love her and she should keep up.
Oh. Dr. Thomas, there you go. Your sister is saying hello to you, and she's concerned that sometimes you guys don't even have time for your own problems.
Well, we try to do self-care. We've been told that over and over, and we're trying to practice it.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I guess we can now squeeze in maybe a real call now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Let me remain anonymous.
That's fine.
I really enjoy the show so much.
Can you speak out? We can't hear you.
I said that I really enjoy the show so much.
Thank you.
I'm greeting to the doctor.
We can't hear you.
Greeting to the doctor, Father. Doctor, good morning.
Can you go straight to the point very quickly?
All right, sir. What I want to say is that I would like to get in touch with the doctor. At least I contact, or I contact. Either email, Twitter, Facebook, or I can look at you and discuss my personal issues.
Okay, that's noted. Thank you so much. Dr. Thomas, we need to begin to wrap up right now. But before we go, I will need you to respond to something. And I'm particular about this because we don't place premium on it enough as we should. That's what I mean, as we should. I wanted to talk about the religious part of it, but time has gone. But let me just jump to my next question, which is, of course, how often do you think people should go see a doctor for psych eval? I mean, nothing is wrong with you, but is there a need at any point to say, okay, I think I should go for psych eval. Let me just go and see my psychiatrist. Let me go and see a doctor. Is there a point that you say that you don't need it, or there are maybe ones? I just want you to share a professional experience on this.
And medic generally, we advise at least you do an annual check. At least once a year, get your annual check, do your basic check review with your family doctor, or and that's actually should include psychological assessment evaluation, because the mind is body is one human being. We're not the mind is not somewhere and the body is somewhere else.
Right.
So that should actually include, even if just basic, check on your mood, your coping, your sleep, the generals, and then so that if there's anything there that needs to be flagged up, maybe for deeper evaluation and advice or counseling or therapy, then you get that. So I think it should be part of people's annual thing. While you just check your body, check your mind as well, even if it's just to talk about how things are done and just get some general support and and then of course there's something.
We have to go now, Dr. Thomas. How can people reach you if they want to reach out to you?
How can people reach me? Okay, I'm consultant psychiatrist with the Olive Prime Wellness and Recovery Center, Lekki branch. So you can go to the website. You can also just get me on ibironke.thomas@theoliveprime.com.
Right, fantastic.
070-111-50587. WhatsApp, please. Messages.
All right. Dr. Thomas, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Let me just say self-care, self-care, self-care. Practice self-care, whatever way you can.
All
Take
right.
time to rest.
Thank you, Doctor. I really have to go now. Thank you, Lagos. Good morning to you.
It's Christmas season and Adron Lemon Friday is here again. This time, it's bigger and better. Now is your time to become a landlord. Enjoy up to 40% discount this Lemon Friday with special goodies delivered to your doorsteps. Buy a piece of land from Adron Homes this Christmas and enjoy mouth-watering Christmas gifts like double-door fridge, Adron seasoning pack, electric iron, blenders, deep freezers, refrigerators, 49-inch TV, 50 kg bag of rice, turkey, vegetable oil, and a whole big cow. To enjoy this amazing Lemon Friday offer, subscribe to any Adron land within our estates in Shimawa, Ibejuleki, Ekwe, Badagry,